So, very good evening. A hearty and warm welcome to all of you in this sultry evening. There is a cloud forming and maybe gathering some storm. Welcome to this once in a long time in-person meet. Thanks to Ajit, he took the leadership and said we'll all meet in person. So we start the program now. So first thing, of course, I would request Ajit to welcome you all and give a heads up on what Time Mysore is all about, because as there are new members, charter members as well as associate members who may or may not be aware of this. So, Ajit, over to you.
Hello and good evening. It feels so good to say this not to a computer screen. I'm sure you all agree. Our last in-person meeting was about 6 months ago. We are aware that we need to bring together people, stakeholders in the startup ecosystem in Mysore. So for the last 6 months to 8 months, we've been actually making an effort at Time Mysore to tie up with institutes. VVC is one example, MIT is another example. We have talked to Myra. In fact, we have 3 of their top leadership team part of TIE now. And we've been expanding the community, all with interest to catalyze the startup ecosystem in Mysore. The TIE University and Women's Pitch Fest were other attempts to look at our student members, women members, to kind of see how we can encourage them to do more such participation. I was hoping that there would be a few women members today. I think they had confirmed, but maybe they are on the way. We'll have to wait for them. We have an MOU with KDEM, with an initiative of the government for us to be the nodal agency for anything to do with startups in Mysore. It's just begun. In fact, the first event of KDEM is on the 25th of October this month. So we hopefully can be that first point of anything startups in Mysore. As Harsha Kikeri, the founder of HoloSuit, one of the busiest startups in Mysore, I liked what he said. He said that we should aim to be the Silicon Mountain, an antidote to the Silicon Valley, place that is more livable, cleaner, and better than the Silicon Valley, Bangalore. I've never been accused of making a long speech. This sheet makes sure that I won't do it this time either. Today is a day of celebration, a celebration of one of our own. D. Sudhanva is not only a leading entrepreneur, but also an investor and a mentor who has been generous with his time and money and has been involved in some of the big startups to come to life. He's a person I admire greatly. His father was my teacher and principal. And it's immense pride and satisfaction that I can say that him being the president-elect of Time Mysore next year is the best thing that could happen to Time Mysore. And we could not have had a better person to restart our in-person sessions with him sharing his life story. Thank you, Sudhanva. We have a few special invitees. Badri Narayan, MD of S3V Technologies, welcome. We had a session with Badri a few months ago, and it was amazing to see what is building out of Mysore. And at that time, we said that we would try to help you out wherever we can, and that promise stays. So please do let us know how we can get involved. And we would also like to showcase your industry to other people in Mysore so that they get encouraged to come and see why you have put up this unit in Mysore and why not elsewhere. Achyuta BK of Unilog and chairman of Winpoint, welcome. Unilog has been one of those early IT companies based on Mysore. Ramchandra Rajers, our own charter member, is the head of content there. Raghunandan, project head of KTech, welcome. Raghu has been instrumental in helping us in the TIE University Pitch Fest, in organizing, helping out, reaching out all the colleges in Mysore and in fact whole of Karnataka. Thank you, Raghu. And they've been generous enough to give us a space free of cost at their center. Thank you to all the members for making this effort and coming here in person. There was some hesitation. We tried to tell people that we'll try to make it as socially distant as possible, at least before the bar opens. After that, we are not responsible. And hopefully this is the beginning of our in-person sessions. I'm sure all of you will enjoy it. If not now, at least at the end of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajit, for really short and sweet speak. Now, I would request Bhaskar Kalale, who is also the TIE board member, to come over and introduce new CMs and associate members of our forum. Bhaskar, over to you.
For those of you who do not know me, my name is Bhaskar Kalale. And those of you who know me, my name still remains the same, so it doesn't change. So, Ajit, again, thank you very much. You've been doing a phenomenal job during these tough COVID times. I have the pleasure of introducing new members today. I'm going to read out, it's a long list, and unlike Ajit's speech, so I'll definitely be accused of taking lots of time. But it's a pleasure to have all of you today, particularly the new members. And as Ajit said, without the induction of new members, this ecosystem can never be a vibrant ecosystem. We need everybody's help that is out here and outside of this room who is not able to come today to help us make Mysuru as the next startup hub in Karnataka and hopefully in India and subsequently in the world. There are, of course, you're going to hear one story, success story from Mysore today, which started a long time ago, right? So I'm hoping that all of the members who are joining today will take active part in making sure that TIE Mysuru actually flourishes and grows leaps and bounds. As I said, there are lots of names, so I request all of you to hold your applause till all the members are introduced, and we can actually welcome them with a loud round of applause towards the end, right? So, new charter members, I'll call out the names. Please stand up and identify yourself. So, as Ajit said, we've been trying to get educational institutions into within our framework and within our environment, and we are pleased to start off by introducing representatives from Myra School of Business, which is one of the leading business schools in not only in Mysore but probably in southern India as well. So may I call upon Mr. Kantraj Ars, founder and managing trustee at Myra School of Business. Welcome, sir. Dr. Rajiv Krishnan, director, if he's here. He's not here. Dr. Amrish Ramashastri, chairman, board of governors. Okay. Vidya Shankar, AV CEO, Abhinav Global Academy. Well, Abhinav Global Academy is one of the leading event management solutions provider in Mysuru. Vidya Shankar? I'm not here. The next one is B.S. Srinivasa, Vice President, Specialized Process Innovation, SPI Private Limited. Okay. Bastian Joseph, Lunar Exports Private Limited. Hi, Joseph. Welcome. Lunar Exports Private Limited is leading footwear manufacturing company in India, having 10 manufacturing units in Mysuru alone. So, thank you very much, Bastian. Welcome. So, these were the charter members, and then I read out the names of associate members. The first name that I would like to welcome is Abhijit MK, CEO of IQ Bets Private Limited. The next one is Rakshit Nagarle, co-founder VDo Creative. VDo Creative, well, actually before that, is it spelled out Triple IQ Bets or IQ Bets? Triple IQ Bets, sorry. So Triple IQ Bets is specializing in providing the digital transformation solutions for SMEs and MSMEs. The next one I've called out from VDo Creative. VDo Creative is a full-service video agency specialized in creating videos of all formats, such as live action, animation, interactive, virtual reality, and so on. Rakshit Nagarle, co-founder, is not here today. Abhishek Divakar, co-founder, VDo Creative. Okay, same company, we are missing him as well. Anand Natarajan, Vice President, University of the People. Actually, it says, is Anand Natarajan here? He's not. He's the founding member of EduBridge Learning, an education and skill development company based out of Mumbai. Recently moved to Mysore, joined University of People as SVP India Operations. Welcome Anand in absentia. Vinod Kumar, advisor and consultant. He is a full-time stock market investor, private equity fundraiser and advisor, and a software engineer working with new technology startups. Did I see Vinod Kumar stand up somewhere? No, he's not here. And of course, as Ajit again mentioned, we tied up with Vidyavadaka College of Engineering, which is one of the leading engineering institutes in Mysore. I would like to welcome a number of representatives from Vidyavadaka College of Engineering, starting with Professor G.B. Krishnappa, Professor Lokesh C., Professor Balu Vijay, Professor Jaswant V., Professor Ambika C.S., Professor Rupa J.K., Professor Gagan S., Vinay K. Prasanna, Professor Pooja K., I don't know if it's a repeat, hopefully not, Professor Avinash, Professor S.A. Mohan Krishna. Then Padmaja Muralidhar, CEO of A-Cube Solutions. Welcome, ma'am. A-Cube Solution is a competency improvement and management consulting firm. So it looks like we have two companies represented here in the edutech space. Ramya Boparna, CEO of Pro Rurals India Private Limited. I don't see Ramya here. Pro Rurals India is an agri startup from Mysuru and is one of the finalists of TI Mysuru Pitch Fest 2021. It was incubated in IIM Bangalore. So Ramya is not here. The next one is Sangeeta Sharaf, founder of Practice Management. She is not here. Practice Management is into providing clinical management solutions to the clinics. Practice Management is one of the finalists of TI Women Pitch Fest 2021. Next member is Neha Dhanaram. Okay, you're Vivek Mitra. Okay, I was reading out your name next, but anyway. Neha Dhanaram, Manohar V. and Vivek Mitra, founders of Anargya Ecotech Private Limited. Correct? Anargya Ecotech Private Limited is into providing feasible solution to the calamitic temperature. Anargya Ecotech Private Limited is one of the finalists of TI Women Pitch Fest 2021 as well. Next one is Vinita More, founder Les Eider Wellness LLP. She is not here. Les Eider is fintech startup, one of the finalists of TI Women Pitch Fest 2021. It's heartening to see that there's so many people who participated in the Women Pitch Fest who are here today, or at least being part of our membership. Vinay Babu, founder, Briz InsurTech Private Limited. Welcome, Vinay. Brizzy helps customers to create digital repository of all your insurance policies, make payment in one place, avail loans or insurance policies, help customers to get better surrender value and create a healthier ecosystem. Very nice. That's about it. So we actually are joined by, or at least we have 22 new members and plus 6 charter members joining us. All of you, thank you very much for joining us. And now we can give a round of applause to all of you. Welcome all. Thank you very much.
Bhaskar. Now, before we start with the main session, I would request Dr. Mahesh Rao, a charter member, to give a heads up on TI University, which he has been championing for the last couple of years.
Good to be here. Good to be in person. And on the TI University program, along with me, Mr. Nagarajan Srinivasan is here, commonly called as Snags. So he's been working with me closely. So most of the charter members have been asking the question, what is in there for me? And the institutes have been asking, if I become a TI member, what is in there for me? And the early stage entrepreneurs, the students who are trying to graduate from their academics, trying out some new ideas, whether it is an ideation stage or a startup at a little bit different stage of their life cycle of the, they keep asking us the question that what is in there for me? So I'm here to kind of, indicate to you for all the 3 segments what is in there for you. Most of the charter members have been there because they have been successful in the business which they are doing. They have gone through the tribulations and the troubles and various headaches of growing their business to a certain stage. and they have experienced a lot of, what you call it as stresses in their life, in their journey. And during those times, they might have asked, would I be able to get some help, either directly, indirectly, some coaching, some mentoring, some help? Okay, that has been the question which they have been all asking. So from the TiE perspective, we do the mentoring, and for that mentoring, since you have come out and you have been successful reasonably well, maybe a unicorn, maybe on the way to becoming a unicorn, so can you be of help and give back to the people who are coming in and who haven't had that luxury, just like yourself, and let us give back something to the society. So from that perspective, the CMs can be what you call it as a stakeholder in trying to develop the next, unicorn in this ecosystem. Not only that, you could be an investor, and TiE Angels provides you that opportunity, a platform, to be able to invest into the company. And remember, if you are a mentor and you have been able to help them, and you become an natural advisor at that point, and you may be seeing some value in it, and you may be able to bring in a bunch of your friends or yourself and invest into that company, see that it grows and becomes very productive, and you, of course, along with whatever you have done and whatever you have come across, now you are helping them out. With the TiE University last year, what we had, some of the finalists have found the advisors and the mentors in our own ecosystem here with the TiE Mysuru. So that has been a very refreshing thing for us to see. So that is what the TiE CMs will get from that perspective. Now let's come back to the institutions. The TiE CMs would become mentors to the institutions and their startup ecosystem which they are trying to build. With the NEP 2020, it becomes a mandatory thing for them to have some kind of what you call it as a E-cell, incubation cell and entrepreneur cell inside the organization. So here we will be able to help them grow that and build that, okay? And along with having the Pitch Fest, a yearly event, now the TiE has made it as a calendar of events where the university students can register themselves by going to the TiE community, and there they will get classes from the big companies like from things like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon on various things which they can do with the tools which they have come out. And these tools and the training which they get is all free for the people. So for example, if a corporate person takes a training in Power Builder from Microsoft, the payment will be something like about $5,000 for a week-long training, but the TiE University students will get it free of cost. Okay, so you can go, you can sign up, you can get it, and you can use that tool for building your next generation product, whatever that is. Okay, so the same with Amazon's, and same with Oracle, same with Google. All of these are provided free of cost, and these are all virtual webinars where you can go, you can train yourself, and the experts from the companies, they come and they talk about their product, how to utilize that product, how to be productive with that product, all of that. So that is provided to you as a budding entrepreneur free of cost, and the institute can take credit making sure that their students are registered, their students are going through that, and all of that stuff. So from the perspective, the institute, Ajit has been talking about having each one of us mentor some of these institutes in general, and for that, the TiE University, what you call it as the web portal, is now getting ready. So you could go and register yourself as a mentor. Right now, there are something like about 70, 75 mentors who are available to you, and you can provide 1 hour a week, or 4 days a week, 1 hour each, or 1 hour a month, 1 hour in 2 weeks, whatever your expertise is, you can provide it there, and people from all over the world. There may be a student who is trying to develop the next generation secure device in Israel who may be asking you for help. Okay? So, or there may be somebody from Silicon Valley asking you for a next generation embedded device which he is trying to build, or a next generation retail device or retail software which he is trying to build, and he may be asking you for some help because you have expertise in that area. And your profile indicates that you have expertise in that. And they work with you on your mutual convenient time. Okay, they send you, if you, for example, you say Wednesday, 5 to 6 is the time I'm available, they will send you an earlier notification indicating that can we schedule for this week, Wednesday, 5 to 6 with you. I have been with those kind of sessions. It has been very fulfilling and very refreshing to understand where they are coming from, what kind of thinking they are going through, how they are thinking. I mean, it is amazing. Okay, that kind of an experience you won't get without being a TIE member and participating in these kind of things. That may lead you to a new idea, and you may think that, hey, let me work with this person, change the product design, whatever the thing which they are thinking, because there is something new which can happen from that. That's what you can think and you can do. In the same way, now we are going to open up internship on the portal. So you could be having an intern who would be working from TIE Atlanta in Georgia Tech, working with you on your EdTech product, as an example, and helping you out with something. And the deal is between you and the student, whether you pay the internship, some stipend, or whether you, make him interesting so that the person works with you free of cost, or work with their project, whatever that is between you and them. So we provide you a platform for you to work with. So these are the things which are coming your way. Please keep an open mind, and please mentor and work with the people, and you will definitely be benefited from those things. And I myself have seen it. It's a wonderful thing. So, you just spend about an hour a week, or maybe an hour a month, and you opt for that time, and during that time somebody will call you up. And right now there are about 10 to 12 sessions a week which are happening. Okay, so that is a regular thing which is going on, and hopefully that will pick up pace. And the same with the internships. So right now we have opened up that, and that portal will be open very quickly. And maybe in the next meeting I'll show you the website and how you can go through. And the TIE community, you can go in there. Startup Tribe is a beautiful example of how you can help. Whatever the programs which are there all over the world, you can attend. It is not limited to Mysore only. Most of them which are virtual, you can attend from anywhere. And these are all free webinars, experts speak. Very recently there was somebody from Germany talking in English. I could understand the difficulty they have talking in English from Germany. But it was an interesting talk about, how the Volkswagen's, new generation cars will look like and that kind of a thing. So these are the things which you will be seeing and you will be hearing. So I spent a lot of time trying to go through this, and some ideas come into me from those things. Okay? So please use that, and that's all what I wanted to say. Thank you very much, Ajit. You have been, phenomenal in terms of giving me all the freedom to go and do whatever I feel like in working with the TIE planning community there. So it's been wonderful. Thank you, Sabarish.
Thank you, Dr. Mahesh Rao, for detailing on TIE University program mentorship, and also another thank you for shortening my time. My throat is also not... Okay, now before I introduce the speaker of the day, for which we are all waiting, is also my good old friend who is still young with a lot of ideas and energies. I would request him to kindly occupy the dais so that everybody can see you, with a round of applause, please. The icing and the creaming on the cake of his introduction has already been given by Ajit and to some extent Bhaskar, and of course Mahesh Rao to some extent. So I will limit myself to the remaining part, the basic cake, but I will not take time because I am running short of time. Though I have known him from 94, in Mysore, especially through CII, his chairmanship way back, I think 20 years back. You are a chairman of 2000, 21 years back. One of the landmark programs that he organized was the Rural Urban Buyer Sellers Meet. And I think subsequently only Urban Hub came here. That was a very impacting program. And ever since that, he's been contributing to CII as well, apart from so many other things he's doing. Excelsoft, he's the founder of Excelsoft, which is going places. A lot of assignments on World Bank, I used to hear every now and then. But the clear path breaking was from Saras e-learning technology. Saras, as I gather, is a school affiliated re-engineering automated system. That is where he found. He got into the K-12 space, that is kindergarten to 12th grade space, and his school that he founded probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, is going places again. It's probably one of the best schools in Mysore. As they say, the proof of the pudding is in eating. I happened to visit one of the exhibitions, I think pre-corona period. I saw some children from Excel Public School. It was amazing. Whether it is robotics or remote sensing or whatever they did, it was quite, it brought goosebumps. So I was wishing that should I go back to school despite my age, biological age, So this is what Sudhana is on about. Clientele of Excelsoft includes global leaders, educational services such as Pearson Education, then Cengage Learning, Infinities Learning, the Guardian Media Group, University of Oxford, Harvard Business School Publishing, British Council, British Open University, Cambridge University Press, prestigious corporations such as Infosys, ICICI Bank, Neptune Orient Lines, list goes on and on and on. So I think since the icing in the cake, cream has been given to you, you know what to expect from Sudhanva in this talk that you are going to listen to him. We have planned a surprise for him. I don't know whether we are giving you a heads up, Mahesh. We are going to have a fireside chat. Now, Dr. Mahesh Rao, I invite you to be seated here and start the dialogue. Thank you.
Welcome, Sudhanva. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening, all of you. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time to come over here. So, busy man. Just to kind of get started, I would like you to start from the time when you were in JCE and you moved from JCE to Worcester Polytechnic in Massachusetts for getting your master's degree. During that time, maybe you can start from there, trying to see, what you were thinking at that time to, how you are now. Maybe relate from there and, take us through your journey there.
Thank you, Mahesh. That's quite a way back. It was 1984 that I graduated, just 1 year after Mahesh did. And like most engineering graduates of those times, aspiration go to US to pursue higher studies. So I was kind of, I should say quite eager, so I took my TOEFL quite early and all that, and got an admission even when I was in 4th year. That we were doing 5-year engineering program that time. So went to university close to Boston and did some work at the Boston MIT labs in the area of control systems before I decided to come back to Mysore for family reasons, and then became self-employed. I did work for some time with Wipro, but then decided to become self-employed.
When you started working and started the Excelsoft, what was the idea at that time compared to where you are today?
Well, actually, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I'm not designed to be an entrepreneur, so it was not by choice, but when I came back to Mysore, I really didn't find a great job. I had a job in Wipro where we were assembling Motorola machines, so it was more to do with testing and electronic circuitry. did that for a year but didn't really enjoy. So decided to become self-employed because there wasn't really an Infosys or any other company in Mysore. So started in my garage with an idea of trying to do something in the software area. I spent more than 6 years, close to 8 years in the field at the irrigation project, living out of camps, etc. Was responsible for developing software for building of the Almaty Dam, modeling of the reservoir, flood management, irrigation management, all automated with sensors during that time. So even before Excelsoft, I did that for 6-8 years, and it was a great experience because it was engineering and software, a combination which helps me even today. And then post that is when I decided to become self-employed. You're right. The first attempt was in our garage at home, trying to develop websites. This was with in partnership with our dear friend Prashant Prakash, who's been here a couple of times. So we both started to build websites together. It was generic, and then came a time when I was advised that I should have more focus and not be generic. I had an education background thanks to my father's experience in education, and I had a technology background. So somebody advised me that you should try and combine the two and create an education technology company. At that point in time, it was called an e-learning company. EduTech is more a recent flavor of the year. So that was the start, garage startup.
So first when I saw Excelsoft as a name was on Star of Mysore on the right side corner at the top, run by Excelsoft software and all of that. That was in 99, 2000, that time frame. And when I visited from US to India, I saw that, and I was talking to him, and I indicated that I didn't know that you started doing this stuff and all those stuff. So it was a very interesting conversation which we had. So I think to go further with that, of course, with Professor Dhananjaya, who is still my professor, my principal even today. I think if I go to JC, I recognize him as a principal even today. Whoever is the present one, doesn't matter. With him being there in the driver's seat in terms of advising, I think the first product which you brought up was Saras, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about how you migrated to that from a e-learning, storytelling, storyboard kind of a thing to there?
Yeah. 2000 was kind of not a great time to do a startup, even though startup was not very fashionable even at that point in time. To become an entrepreneur was not a great time. It was just after the dot-com bust, and so at the same time I didn't have much of a choice. So I had to ideate and find a product. Services, there were already biggies, and there were too many people doing services. So we came up with this name Saras. Saras stands for knowledge. So it's a family of products now. Initially it was mainly around testing, online testing and online assessments. Today that's very big business for Excelsoft, right? I'm proud to say we run GMAT, we run GRE, we run TOEFL, we run US civil services exams, highly secure, high stakes tests and exams globally on our platform, many more actually. So that was initially, Saras was about building a online assessment, online testing product. And that has evolved because of the demands of the market. And we also in parallel built a online learning product. There's quite a lot of proliferation in that area, but we still stand out with some of the features we built into that product.
One other thing, most of you might be now aware that artificial intelligence and machine learning is very high on most of the people's agenda. If I remember right, when I had a conversation with him about the GRE, In GRE during 2009-10 itself, they had, for example, if you were answering all the questions and they were all correct, the difficulty level would increase as you move forward, right? So how did you manage that part of it in your e-learning? I mean, at that time, you and I talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Basically, we had to build a group of psychometricians based in US. We have a team of psychometricians based in UK and in a couple of other countries. Psychometricians come up with the algorithm that underlies an exam like a GRE or a GMAT because it has to be adaptive. And the adaptive algorithm is the secret sauce. Technology, many companies can build. So we built several such algorithms and proposed it to GMAC, which runs GMAT, and ETS, which runs GRE and others. And they liked what we had to present. Obviously, there were lots of confidentiality clauses and copyright, IP related issues, but we overcame all that, and so that actually won us these large businesses.
So when Pearson and Oxford and those universities came in, because of that kind of a pedigree which you already had and a proven track record which you had with GRE, TOEFL and all of that. I mean, I still remember the conversation which we had at the step, I hope you do recall, 2007-8, we had long hours of conversation trying to figure out, how do they do that, right? So
absolutely. So that was breaking into the online testing market, and once you break into some of these big names, we've really gone from Mysore to Melbourne, Mysore to Mexico. We run a lot of similar exams out of Mexico, Brazil, many other countries. So that was a gateway, and I think the seed was sown in struggling through product ideation and building a prototype, making it work, and then you get one or two reference customers, then it's easier to go and penetrate the market more deeply.
So there may be something for the entrepreneurs who are trying to go through the same kind of a path. In the first few customers, as we talked about during that time also, some things were done free of cost, trying to see that, right? So maybe you can take us through a little bit of that, explain how you were able to absorb the cost and trying to do that free of cost thing.
Yeah. Well, one typical pricing model for anything software related, whether it was services or product, we were more at that point in time into product. Now it's product plus services around the product. Used to be a license fee, an annual license fee, or a 3-year license fee paid annually or something like that, which is nice to do. So our initial customers were people who were willing to pay a license fee to use our product, and we would white label it, and we would get paid in advance for, annually in advance for 3 years. You have a 3-year or a 5-year license contract. The kind of seed money funding came from the customer themselves, because they would pay us 1 year in advance. So you could absorb we could absorb all of our working capital requirements in that kind of a model. Once we got over that, now we insist on a revenue share. We don't do licensing anymore. So if GMAT runs 2 million tests, then we get a certain dollars per test delivered. So it's nice to make that transition where you get the upside to what your client does.
So you migrated from a free POC
Yeah.
to an
License.
perpetual license kind of a thing, which is license paid in advance,
Yeah.
to today, a revenue sharing model where the upside is on your pocket, not on this one, right? So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful transition which you did. So, most of us struggle with the POC itself, where we need to give a free POC to, hook them in, right? So, can you share any of those,
Yeah. Actually, our first breakthrough came with a company called The Guardian, which is also a popular newspaper and a media group based out of London. So we had to spend time and money, and we had only 4 people working for us at that point in time out of the garage in my home. Obviously, I had not paid them 4 months' salary because I couldn't afford until the prototype was up and running, or the so-called POC was up and running. So in a way, that's how I got it free, you could say. Then I went all the way with very little money on hand. We didn't even afford to take the underground or taxi, least of all in London. When I walked around, went there and presented the POC, they said they didn't like it. They said, we don't like the POC that you've constructed. However, like your passion, so we would like you to build our entire content management system. So, went with a POC for which we had to pay for it ourselves, very difficult, but it was a lucky break. All I can say is it was just a lucky break. So, a lot of hard work, some lucky breaks, lots of mistakes I've made during this journey. So it's okay, but that's how I got my first break.
So I still remember, I think it was around 2001-2 time frame.
2001.
The person from Guardian was there,
Correct.
and we all went out for dinner or something like that, and
Correct.
we talked about this person. So
Yeah, after that we became such good friends. He's been on our board ever since.
So, I mean, for others, it's a learning for us, because, we always think that if you do something free, it may never come back. But I think that passion which you showed by going in there and, even though they didn't like the POC or the look and feel of it, they were able to give him something else. So, anything else which you want to talk about from there to the Pearsons?
Yeah, well, I learned a lot of lessons during this journey. So it was fashionable to find venture capital money at that point, 2001 and or so. So being in Mysore, I had no or very little exposure to finding VC money. However, I managed to find VC money in Bangalore. There is a fund called Ascent Capital, and I made the mistake of giving away too much equity, which I have discussed with you. For very little funding, I got 1.25 crores in equity, 1.25 crores in preference shares with lots of conditions attached to it. And I gave away 33% of my company for that. So, which means the valuation was low and I was too naive, and I didn't have any advisory. In 7 years' time, we gave them an exit which was 128 times what they had invested. So, thank you. So that was an upside. So for 1.25 crores, they got 128 crores. So we kind of started to make a mark in this area of using technology in education. But then the problem didn't end there. Somebody else, one American fund, a PE fund, and a Singapore-based PE fund together bought the shareholding of Ascent Capital, which means they still had 33% between two large PE funds. And having worked closely with PE funds, one American and one Singapore, I wouldn't, there are some pleasant things. There are also some very difficult things. It's very challenging to work with PE funds, particularly though with fund managers who are very aggressive. Every board meeting is a nightmare. So you will get all kinds of questions which sometimes you are not prepared for. And then came a time when I had to give them an exit. So there was pressure for me to exit them. Now, obviously, given the first exit that we had done, the second exit expectations were very high. So they wanted at least 5 times that. So I thought this would be a perpetual game. You get somebody else, some other PE investor to come in, and then they will, in 5 years down the line, they will want an exit at 5 times or whatever. So I had diluted a little bit and created a kind of safety net. I believe I had created a safety net for a couple of generations. So what I did was this time around I said I'll not go to a PE. I invested all family savings and funds to buying them back. So at 5 times whatever they had expected, we bought them back. So I bought them back, and today I own Excelsoft and a family of businesses. We've done many acquisitions, which we don't talk about a whole lot. As Excelsoft, we've done acquisitions in Singapore, in Hyderabad, in Noida, in the UK now. So I had the confidence that we can buy them back, and it gives me more freedom to think about what I should be doing next. Either succession planning, or who knows, I may even sell the business at some point in time. So that's the story, and there are some unpleasant things as well when you go through this journey.
Correct. And just to give you a glimpse, I think when he says that I had a safety net, he invested into companies which I think gave him plenty of money when they went big, and that is the money which he invested back into his company.
Yes.
Can you tell us of one of those which?
And ML. The name of the company is Fund2, and that got acquired by Reliance, and so that was a big exit I got. And the other is Toppers. You might see a lot of advertisement of Toppers Academy on television. So I was one of the early investors in Toppers. Toppers got acquired by Byju's, and so some of my, those are two examples. There are a few other examples where some of my investments have given me fantastic returns. Some of my investments have failed. Some of them have taken a little bit of time to take off, but are doing well, and I'm hopeful of great exits. So while I continue to run my business, I continue to look for interesting investment opportunities. Some of them work, some of them don't. But as long as net to net I'm positive, I'm okay.
So I think that is the whole story of investing, right? So you invest in some, you win. It's the thing which I wanted to kind of allow is that maybe take the questions from the audience, or you want to say something more? Or I think we kind of understood where you are, where you came from, what are all the things which you did, and so that part of it is done. So anybody with questions? I think about 10 minutes we have, please.
I was fortunate to get an experience, get an opportunity to meet Mr. Mukesh Ambani in person at his office in Mumbai. So I went there with a lot of anxiety and with nervousness, and he had a full board, and I had to go in and make a presentation to his board, which consisted of Somers, the earlier economic advisor to Clinton, I think, and N.K. Singh, who's current financial advisor to Government of India. Quite a lot of luminaries. But I was humbled by his behavior. So he would come to the door to receive, walk you through, seat you in his room, get you a cup of coffee, tea or whatever, and then take you into a presentation. That was my experience, and make a presentation. And then post that he would come and do a debriefing and would walk you up to the exit. So I don't know, I mean, you read and hear about different stories. This is my personal experience of having met him twice. And I have pleasant memories of the conversations I've had with him. So that's, and the second one, sir, angel investing. Yes, yes, yeah. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Like people who invested in me and in my team, who obviously were taking risks. And for them it's always been, even if 3 out of 10 works, and I think that's the general, for a fund manager, that's the threshold. And there is a hurdle rate that they have to achieve, which is 3 times the amount of money they are given to invest. So it's the same thing that I follow. I may do 10 investments, 15 investments, but as long as 3 out of 10 give me good returns, and it should amount to 3 times the total investment I've made. So if I have invested 10 crores in 10 companies, I expect 3 of those companies to give me a return of about 30 crores. Just taking some hypothetical numbers. So I guess that's how most of these guys operate. We are not a VC, but we're just setting up an Excel Capital where we will put in money to invest in startups. It's just getting registered. I think we got registered today. So it's not so much about money. It's about the excitement of the opportunity to work with youngsters with different ideas, startups with different ideas. I think that's, I'm 58 plus now, and Excelsoft doesn't give me the kind of kick it used to give me, so I need to do this.
So he's already getting pension, so.
Yes, I am a pensioner.
Any other questions? Please, Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
Excellent session. You spoke a lot about Excelsoft's journey. I want to hear about the Excel Public School as well.
Yeah.
Right? What was the trigger point, and how do you foresee the journey of Excel Public School?
Yeah.
Are you also planning to seed the entrepreneurs there with ideas, or the young minds basically?
Yeah. Actually, Excel Public School will never make money in my life, for my lifetime. It's not a for-profit thing, because the investment and, if we look at return on investment, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. But there was this why thing, while Excelsoft was giving us answers of what and how, why do we exist was not clear. Why are we doing what we are doing was not clear. It may sound philosophical, but truly it feels that way after some time. And for fulfillment, for some kind of a meaning we wanted to bring to our business or whatever we were doing, Excelsoft was the product of that. We wanted to create something which was meaningful, which meant something for the community, not for making money. While many people tell me the fee is steep, they don't understand how much burn we have and how much investment and how much reinvestment, every year you need to keep upgrading. But as long as it's operationally, even operationally, we probably run on a slight deficit where Excelsoft and other businesses cross-subsidize. But it's a sense of purpose, it's fulfillment of creating an educational institute and kind of trying to be innovative. Yes, to the second part of your question, it's made great strides. We've been recognized internationally. We are the only school in India to be invited to be to become members of New York Academy of Sciences. Thank you. And many of graduating students from Excel Public School get scholarships with New York Academy of Sciences or Indian Institute of Space Sciences or ICER or one of those agencies who encourage talented youngsters. Our focus has not been CET, has not been IIT, JEE, not been to churn out doctors, but to churn out scientists for the future. So that's Excel Public School. Thank you.
Just to say further to that, my niece's son was invited by Microsoft. He was at Excelsoft, Aditya Hegde. I think it came in the newspaper. He had shared the dais with Bill Gates in person. And that was when he was in, 9th or 10th standard. And one of his, another student, Ashok Rao's son, is, is one of the entrepreneurs who has been funded to a tune of obscene amount of money for his ideas, and is running a company, not even a graduate yet, and he's already running a company in Texas, Austin. So there are quite a few accolades. I think, one other thing which he mentioned is something which is key. That is, we don't churn out JEEs and, the NEETs and the others. The learning environment part and the other part of it, can you please elaborate a little bit further, please?
Yeah, I think there were some basic values or beliefs we had. One was clearly experiential learning. We didn't want it to be a closed door in classroom only learning. Today, even our classrooms are becoming active classrooms. So classrooms we're redoing all classrooms where one part of the classroom will be some lab activities they can perform at the back of the classroom. So we're trying to bridge learning by listening, watching, and learning by doing. Learning by doing, we always had great labs. We have a great innovation center. For those of you who have not seen it, you should come in, a very large one, where there's quite a lot of entrepreneurship activity that happens. Quite a few graduates of Excel Public School have become entrepreneurs. So our idea was encourage innovation, encourage curiosity, encourage innovation, make it learning by doing, experiential learning. So those were important for us. Financial literacy is important. We have a major in business studies and entrepreneurship. We don't have a major in biology or life sciences or anything like that. So our focus has been more on trying to get students inspired to become entrepreneurs of the next generation, and also scientists, pure play scientists. So yeah, we designed the school for experiential learning rather than classroom teaching. That is part of the game. That is a compliance requirement. So we'll carry on with that, but we continue to build outside of that.
So some of the examples of what he has done, Sandeep Rao, Aditya Hegde, and quite a few of others are there. Any other questions, please? Raghu.
Raghu.
Any plans to scale experiential learning across the model that you've developed in the Excel school?
Yeah.
How do you see that scaling up?
Yeah. It's been 10 years since we started to design this. By the time, it was in a small little place. So then we built a campus, and then we have 2 schools in Coimbatore. But I've realized which is always, as you rightly pointed out, it's very difficult to do it on our own. And we now have a team called Excel School Solutions, which, by the way, Prashant runs, where we are via Oxford University Press in India and via CUP Cambridge University Press and many of the big publishers who have a presence in India, even Pearson. We have taken it to 3,000 schools across the country now. So we were not able to scale it on our own, but with, in partnership with companies who are involved in education and learning, we are able to reach 3,000 schools now, and I think it will only keep growing. In 3,000 schools only with Oxford University Press. There's a product called Oxford Advantage, which is actually white labeled our product. We probably have much more, twice the number on, that we have reached now. So we support them.
Any other questions? Please.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Hi, Harsha.
Hello,
When did you arrive?
Harsha, we can sit down, Harsha.
You were in
yes.
Stanford and
So, yes, I think ever since I came to Mysore, I think you have been supporting from the very beginning by creating CII Education Summit and so many other things. I had 2 questions for you. One is that with respect to attracting the second generation, second level leadership to Mysore to work here, as well as to mentor them, train them, and kind of to get them to a level wherein even when they leave Excelsoft or when they leave any other company here, they become really entrepreneurs and they go and do great things, right? That is what, if you look at GE, the alumni from GE or alumni from Microsoft, there is so many who kind of create, and that kind of loops back, right? Many times they do and then they come back. So what is your thinking about that? Were you successful in this? I would love to learn about that experience. That is my first question, sir.
Yeah.
My second question would be with respect to with how when we become too global, right? It's too difficult to kind of retain that Mysorean thing. So what are you trying to do? How Mysorean can we make things as we scale and become a global company, and what is the uniqueness that we can maintain? What is your approach? How do you kind of think about this problem of creating this global system, right? It's global, but still there is a local aspect to it.
Yeah.
Any thoughts you have on that? I would love to hear, sir.
Well, initially when we faced hurdles of attracting talent and keeping talent in Mysore, the easier thing was to go and acquire and expand in Hyderabad, go acquire, expand in Noida, which we've done, and acquire pockets of talent in other countries where you need presence. That's an easier thing to do, obviously more expensive, but then, it's the process of, we never figured out the process of how do you attract talent to come to Mysore and to stay for a long time in Mysore and be associated with a company like Excelsoft. So we decided to flip the model. So we went out, and there is a kind of talent you get in Hyderabad. We do a lot of instructional design, learning design, etc. So you expand that part of your business in Hyderabad. You expand a certain other part of business in Noida. I don't know if I still have an answer at this, even today, as to how to attract and retain talent in Mysore. We always, it was fashionable in early 2000s to complain, early 2000, to complain about lack of connectivity. So we said no airport, so people won't come. No good highway connect, people won't come. Railway doubling of the track hadn't come, so people won't come. So we would complain about that on various forums. And when all that is nearly happening, we still don't see signs of great talent coming to Mysore, unless there is some family compulsion or you really can inspire them. So today I think middle management is not a problem in Mysore. So senior leadership to middle management is not a problem because they can understand that the quality of life in Mysore is better. You sell them the usual stuff. You'll have better quality of life, you have lower cost of living, etc., pollution free. That's the same thing we've been selling for quite some time. At a certain age group, they will bite it. But a younger age group, they still want a happening place, Pune, Bangalore, Noida, etc. I wish I knew the answer, Harsha. I still don't. I'm still trying to figure out.
Not enough pubs in Mysore.
We even complained about that in CII one time. So yes, we should collectively find an answer. I think forums like TIE and CII, we should try and see if there is a model which we can create to get such talent. I was hoping that our colleges will make a difference. They do make a difference, but incremental, I should say.
Correct. I think the total number is more, percentage is still the same.
So then
And my second question, sir, with respect to creating that local kind of effect, right, retaining the essence of Mysore.
Come again, Harsha.
My second question was related to how do you make sure now that kind of everywhere, like as you expand and have these pockets in Noida, Hyderabad and all, will Excel staff, do you think there is a lot of essence of Mysore which can still spread around? How do you retain that Mysorean essence or the thing even while you become a global company? Do you have them come over here? What are the things that you do to kind of keep that connect or maybe increase their attractiveness to relocate to Mysore, right? Because all these headquarters, usually there is a lot of attraction to come there. So is there anything that you can do now or future so that you can attract back some of the talent from there? Incentives for being in headquarters?
Well, I feel it's got a lot to do with the kind of culture we build in the organization. And the onus of building a culture where you can attract great talent even from outside to Mysore is up to leaders like ourselves. So, to kind of take the culture we can build in Mysore, because we are in close contact with people who work with us, you can kind of give them a reason of why we exist, what we do, how we can make a difference to lives, etc. We tell all those stories, and truly we follow through with that. But to bring that kind of intensity into workplace which is remote, Hyderabad, Noida, not as remote, but it was over the last 2 years thanks to COVID. The only one solution we had is move people, shuffle them, get some of them to come and work here for 6 months, a year or 2 years, and then give them an option to stay on if they like the place or move back. Similarly, get Mysore teams to relocate, small teams, to relocate to Hyderabad or Noida, and hope that they will be able to speak the language we speak in our offices in Mysore. I mean, I don't mean Kannada, but generally what we believe in our values, etc. Was something which was working reasonably well, in kind of normalizing the culture. or globalizing the ethos of a company you create and establish in Mysore. You want to take it to as you say, you were talking about a global platform. Certainly, we at Excelsoft are not there where we can take the culture and our belief systems to pockets of talent elsewhere outside of India. But inside India, it is possible as long as we can travel freely, be there for sufficient period of time where you can transcend the values and beliefs to the rest of the team. So no clear formula yet that I know of, but this is one thing which we have been trying to do actively.
Ajit, and one more question after that, please.
Sudhanva, fascinating session. No discussion on EdTech will be complete without talking about Byju's.
Yes.
And my question is on Byju's twofold. One is Byju's has been in the news, in the daytime news, thanks to all the fundraising and acquisitions, and on the social media for all the pressure selling that we keep hearing about. So, as a B2C company, I want a comment on what Byju's model is. Do you think it's a failure of the Indian education system that Byju's is exploiting, or is it the aspirational goals of Indian parent that it's exploiting? And the second question is that the crackdown that the Chinese government has had on all the tech companies, I mean, it's unbelievable to think of them going after the tech companies. So what is your comment on that?
Well, the second one is easier, so I'll answer that first. The crackdown of the government of China on education companies in China has greatly benefited education and tech companies in India. So there's a big shift in that business. I don't know about any other sector. In the education and particularly in the tech sector, there is pressure on Indian tech companies to grow, to scale, to do more from each one of our customers, because they all were so China dependent over a period of time. And now they all want to get out of there in a hurry. In fact, I know of some senior people who are actually stuck there because they don't know what else, what to do to move the business. There are two areas where, interestingly, there are two geographies which are benefiting from this. One is India, the other one is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is EdTech and education sector is growing phenomenally, and at this point in time they are growing faster than India. So Sri Lanka is, and I would not have imagined that before this China incident happened, but now Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Philippines, some of the erstwhile Russian, whatever, they're all benefiting from the China problem. India is also benefiting, so there's a lot of opportunity. Only we should be able to consume it. We need that many people, that much of talent. On Byju's, I think there are two factors. One is truly B2C. Most of us always, at least earlier generation entrepreneurs, we took the easier route of building a B2B business because you're sure of solidity, endurance, etc. The B2C mindset was not there. And second is broadly our school education system, while regimentation has been good, with the curriculum, state curriculum, CBSE, etc. Because if we got educated in schools in India, I don't know, not too many people failed when they went abroad for higher studies or at workplace. So to that extent, I think we always had a reasonably robust school education system, but highly regimented. We didn't have the flexibility. So we were not creating innovators. We were creating people who can be managed and who will do well when they are managed well. And the people who are managing them are usually client companies. I think that was a serious limitation. What Byju's is doing is breaking out of that mold, using internet and digital medium very effectively, being very aggressive on sales. How many B2C companies have been so aggressive in selling content and digital content and learning experience online? Most of their customers use it as a supplement, right? So not as the only way of school education learning. So that way it was a best, it was a great fit. They would at best replace private tuitions and tutors with a lot of interesting content, and which is growing, the repository is growing. So I think that's been an amazing phenomenon. They found the problem and they have addressed it very well so far. We've got to see, sometimes it's fashionable to be online and using interactive digital content, and people may want to switch back to face-to-face learning, being in the same place at the same time with your teacher and peer group. So what online learning removes is that social contact and the personal touch. So if people yearn to go back to that mode, then you may see a little bit of a dip. But I think all the assets they've created is here to stay for a long time. So personally, I feel it's a great job, very good for the country. It will probably help the school system plug some weaknesses which they had in the way in which they were delivering education. Hopefully NEP will also help in plugging those gaps.
Yeah, just a last one.
Yes. Somebody. Yeah. What would like to get from you is what are the essence of all your learnings in a few points, Yes, the story is fantastic, probably we'll be able to pick up those. But if you would like to kind of say, these are the key learnings of my journey, would there be a few things that you would like to share with us?
Equanimity. I don't get excited by wins. I don't get too excited by wins. I don't get too disappointed by losses.
True yogic.
Yeah, just a last question. The pandemic affected us all in various ways, and particularly for the software industry, it just showed that you really did need to have an office per se. How do you look at it going forward? One, effect on the employees in the last 1.5 years. And then going forward, do you see it as an opportunity that now you have a global resource available with you with respect to human resources, that you can pick people from anywhere and have them work out of home or out of their own location? So how do you look at it? What is your point of view as far as the end of this pandemic is concerned?
Well, my guess is that the blended model of working will continue. So there are people who started to like working from home. When needed, go to office. So the default, the government directive to all of us is default, let them work from home. When needed, if they are vaccinated, let them go to office for meetings, conflict resolutions, escalation resolutions, etc. And I think it will continue in the same way. It's very interesting that the business of software tools, which are used by technology companies, have evolved quite a bit. So today we have tools which can monitor productivity of an individual, of a team, of what work we are doing for a customer, at various levels, you can monitor productivity, not via timesheets, but via automated tools, which gives business owners and leaders that much more confidence in blended mode of working, and I think it will continue. It works well for all parties involved. So far, that's my experience.
So with that, we will try to conclude. Thank you so much, Sudhanva, for...
Thank you. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you all.
I myself had a lot of questions, but I guess we'll pick it up some other time. And, okay.
Sure. Thank you all so much for your patience.
Thanks.
Be seated. So fairy tale has ended. I call this a fairy tale because you remember when granny or grandpa tells a grandchild a story, the story belongs to somebody else. So there is, likewise, it is his own story. He told us the story as if somebody has done all this. And he nailed it in the last answer that he doesn't get too excited. So I think that DNA you have to pass on. So too much of excitement, too much of despondency is also bad. No, it is like a roller coaster. Before I request Charter Member Pramod to give his concluding remarks and vote of thanks, I would request past TIE President Sanjay to come over and hand over a small memento.
The last words that he spoke of saying equanimity, in the words of today's exported modern ethos, Indian Sadhguru, he is truly a karmic yogi. You know, he is kind of almost done with his karmic bag and ready to walk to the transcend to that. So thank you for the talk. I have a founder teen at my home. He did schooling for 10 years at his school. My son, though is not founded anything, is in first PUC, acts at the mind of a founder. Probably that's what, your school is really given, You have to sit with him, talk to him, convince him why you have to do this or not do this, right? So that's really a mindset that I think school has given, because he asks a lot of questions. As entrepreneurs, you got to ask a lot of questions and not agree ready to anything. And that I think the 10 years of school has done, thanks to Sudhanva sir. And if accidents can happen, such accidents should happen. He said he's an accidental entrepreneur, right? We would like more such accidents to happen, right? Which can create more lives. Earthquakes can be catastrophic, but they create, right? The same way these kind of accidents can happen. And a few key words in the word cloud that I kept noting down were I think for entrepreneurs, founders should kind of try to, your product as white label, right? Many do not want to, let their identity give away, right? But, giving away this identity created this big business. White label as a word, innovation, learning, why? All this led to is kind of telling us, if you are an entrepreneur and need an ear, I am here, right? Him saying to all of us and to the entrepreneurial community in Mysore, he's always been there, probably his thought of Ambani treating him and my thought of walking to his office the first time, a few times, is the same, He kind of came, he didn't at any point in time make me feel he's a big person in a big company, He was somebody who kind of made sure all that what Mr. Ambani did for him, right? So, winding up, thanks for the humility you've shown as a human being. First, for everything that you've done, you're a most human being that we can all respect and really look up to. Thank you, Mr. Sudhanva. Right? So we thank him for agreeing, and I didn't expect this to be such a innovative and really a talk that could touch each one of us. Probably each one of us have picked up 1 or 2 points, And if you need more points, he's always there for a chat or an email or a call. I do reach out to him. I thank Ajit for his opening remarks, Dr. Mahesh for talking about TIE University. And what's in it for me, there's so much in it for all of us, right? Not just as colleges or as entrepreneurs. And I thank Mr. Sabrishan for all this. He's been a driver for all events. It's there. You must have seen so many events that have happened. He's the sutradhar of those events, right? Even one message Ajit put, and he said, okay, I can take care of activities, and you can see series of activities that have happened. Probably, we got to a level where we're saying there are too many events. So that's thanks to him for all the work that he's done. In fact, he was yesterday for a call also, he was kind of having throat challenge, but he said, no, I'll do it. So that's the kind of founder mentality even at this stage. Mr. Sabrishan, thank you. And thank you all the special invitees who come here, the charter members, and Mahesh, who does all the work. Mahesh, thanks, for making this happen. Day and night is there. If he do not find a time, he finds a time for the calls or whatever has to get done. And thanks to him. And of course, thanks to all the charter members and those present here for really gracing this occasion. We have dinner followed by this. Kindly do be part of it. Thank you.